Good evening, and welcome to the Helen Borgers Theater. Our performance is about to begin. If you have cell phones, please remember to turn them off. And please, no texting, no photography, and no video recording during our show. Thank you.
KBRD, Long Beach. Spacious and charming ground floor Ludlow Park. Bookshelves and framed photographs line the living room walls, and fireplace mantels adjoin the tennis courts. The bedroom is at the front of the apartment with street-facing windows. At the rear, French doors open onto the terrace facing Charrington Gardens. An elegant writing desk with a telephone sits just inside these curtained glass doors. The apartment's main door opens to the living room into a wide hallway where a carpeted staircase climbs to other apartments on higher floors.
Oh, thank you.
How many people did you say you'd murdered?
Oh, it must be close to 50 since we last met.
So on a week, how do you do it?
Oh, ropes, blades, severed brake lines, sharp scissors, you name it. Just last week, I threw a live toaster into a bathtub.
No, I mean your ideas. Where do they come from?
Oh, newspapers, police files, other writers.
And I always thought of you as a pure original.
Oh, well, welcome to the world of television writing.
Suppose you can't think of anything.
Oh, in that case, I have a few secrets.
Secrets? After all we've been through, tell me one.
Well, the motive drives the story. Jealousy, money, revenge, protecting someone you love. I just pick one out of a hat.
How romantic.
Well, it pays the bills. Don't forget. White-O makes your teeth bright-O. Zigga-za.
I could hardly believe it when I heard your voice. At first I thought you were phoning from New York.
Is that why you were shouting?
Oh, stop! I wasn't.
Was that Tony who answered?
Yes. I do hope he isn't going to be too late. Poor darling. He always gets caught when we're going to the theater. So, you're here for work this time?
Yes, I came over to work on some short TV films, and after that I might knock off for a year and write that novel.
Another crime story?
Possibly, or maybe, I don't know, something closer to the heart.
Max, before Tony comes, I ought to explain something.
Uh-oh.
I never told him about us.
Not easy to do.
When you rang up yesterday, I just said that you were a writer I'd met when I was in America.
I gather things are okay now between you and Tony?
I can hardly believe it myself.
The way you used to talk about
I
him.
know, but it's true. Things could be better now. And I want to keep them that way.
Oh. Well, that's a pill, Margot, but I'm glad for you, and I want you to be happy.
Thank you, Max.
Is there something else?
You know me so well. I wasn't going to tell you, but you remember those letters you wrote me?
Oh, of course.
Well, I burnt them. I thought it best. All except one. You probably know the one I mean.
I can guess. I never should have written it.
I loved it just the same. I used to carry it round wherever I went. Then one day, Tony and I were going to spend the weekend with some friends in the country. While we were waiting on the train platform, I noticed my handbag was missing. Your letter was inside.
Where was this?
Victoria Station. I thought I must have left it in the restaurant, but then
You never found it?
2 weeks later, the handbag turned up at the lost and found, but the letter was missing. A week after that, I received a note. This note.
To have your letter returned, draw £50 from the bank. Tie up money in a package and mail to John King, 23 Newport Street, Brixton. If you go to the police, the letter will be sent to your husband. Blackmail! Well, of all the... Margot, did you...
Yes, and I sent the money, but the letter was never returned. After waiting 2 weeks, I went to that address myself. It's a little shop. People use it as a forwarding address. The parcel I'd sent was still there. They said they never heard of a John King.
Why didn't you tell me?
You couldn't have done anything. You would probably have made me tell Tony and the police. It was only £50. I thought I'd just pay up and be done with it. Oh, but I was in an awful panic.
Margot, are you ever going to tell Tony about us? Don't you think we'd all get along better in the end if...
Please, Max. I know Tony. Everything's different now.
I can't say I'm looking forward to meeting him.
Oh, but you like him. He's completely changed this last year. In fact, it was exactly a year ago that it happened.
What happened?
Tony suddenly grew up, became a model husband. You remember that night? I came to say goodbye.
How can I forget? Tony had gone off to play in a tennis tournament.
He planned to go, but then it was strange. When I left you that night, I came back here. I sat down on the sofa and had a good cry. Then I fell asleep. When I woke up, Tony was standing in the hall with all his bags and tennis rackets. He said that he had decided to give up tennis for good and settle down.
Huh. Just like that.
Of course, I didn't believe him at first, but he meant it all right. He went out the very next day and got himself a job.
Margot, why didn't you burn that last letter too?
I don't know. What were we doing exactly a year ago?
I was putting the mushrooms into the spaghetti. You were watching me just like you are now.
What did you do when I'd gone?
Oh, I went for a slow stroll along the embankment. I remembered that an idea for a story popped into my head.
A sad story.
My hero was an eminent novelist coming from America with his pockets full of money, ready to snatch his lady love from the arms of her jealous husband.
How does it end?
Well...
Oh, there you are. We thought you were never coming. What have you been up to?
Oh, sorry, darling. The boss blew in just as I was leaving.
Tony, this is Max Halliday.
Hello, Max.
Tony?
I'm terribly sorry to be so late. Has Margot been looking after you all right?
We've been drinking ourselves silly waiting for
You're
you.
grand. Let me freshen you up. First visit to London, Max?
No, I was here a year ago for a vacation.
Oh, yes, that's right. Margot told me you write for the radio, don't you?
Television, for my sins.
Yes, poor fellow. Are you staying long?
Well, I'm not sure. I might do some traveling.
Oh, well, if you want showing around any time, just let us know.
Oh, thank you, Tony. I'll remember that.
Tony, it's getting late. Shouldn't we...
Oh, darling, slight alteration in plans.
Now, don't say you can't go.
I'm afraid so. Old man Burgess is flying to Brussels on Sunday, and I have to get the monthly report in by tomorrow.
Oh, no. Can't you do it when you get back tonight?
Afraid not. It will take hours. I'll have to fake half of it as it is. But I thought of something. Do you have plans tonight, Max?
Tonight? Oh, well, I don't.
Perfect! You're a hero, old boy.
Oh, all right, then.
You see, darling? An upgrade.
Well, can you join us after the theatre? Maybe we'll go somewhere.
Well, give me a ring in the intermission if I'm inspired.
Oh, do try. I'll just get my things, Max.
Here are the tickets, Max. I'm afraid this is terribly rude of me.
Oh, not at all. I'm just sorry you can't go.
I'll make it up to you. I say, what are you doing tomorrow night?
Saturday? Well...
How would you like to come to a stag party.
A stag party?
Some American boys have been playing tennis all over the continent, and we're giving them a sort of farewell dinner.
Oh, well, I'm not much of a tennis player.
Oh, doesn't matter. You know New York and all that. Darling, Max is coming to the party tomorrow night.
Oh, good. You'd better drop in here first and have a drink.
That's the idea.
All right.
Shall we, Max?
Now coming.
Enjoy yourselves.
Goodbye, darling.
Bye.
Hello?
Hello. Amstead 2837.
Yes?
Captain Lesgett, please.
Speaking.
Good evening. You don't know me. My name's Fisher. I understand you have a car for sale.
Yes?
I saw it at your garage. How much are you asking?
1100.
11. Well, it certainly looks the job for me, but I don't like that price much.
Yes, I didn't like it when I bought it.
Now, when can we meet?
How about tomorrow afternoon?
Oh, well, I'm afraid I can't manage that. And I'm going to Liverpool on Sunday. I was rather hoping... I say, I don't suppose you could come by my flat tonight?
Well, where is it?
Maid of Vale. I'd call on you, only I've twisted my knee rather badly.
Oh, sorry to hear it. What's your address?
61A Charrington Gardens.
Charrington.
That's right. Turn left at the underground. It's about 2 minutes' walk.
Right. Well, I can be there in about an hour.
Oh, that's extremely good of you. I don't see why we shouldn't settle the whole thing here and now, provided you drop the price sufficiently.
I'm afraid that's quite out of the question.
Well, we'll see what a couple of drinks can do. Goodbye.
Oh, goodbye.
Lesgett.
Mr. Fisher?
Captain Lesgett, do come in. This is very good of you. Let me have your coat. Any trouble finding your way?
None at all.
Do sit down. How about a drink?
I can't help thinking I've seen you before somewhere.
Funny you should mention that. The moment I opened the door, Wait a minute. Lesgett? You're not Lesgett. Swan! C.J. Swan.
Oh, you've a better memory than I have. Fisher? When did we meet?
Weren't you at Cambridge?
Yes?
Oh, must be 20 years ago. You wouldn't remember me. I only came here last year.
Well, what a coincidence, eh?
Yes. This calls for a special drink. I was planning to palm you off with an indifferent port. But let's see what we have here. Oh, how's this?
Oh, perfect. So, how did you know my car was for sale?
Your garage told me. I was stopping for a fill-up.
That's odd. I don't recall mentioning it.
No, I told them I was looking for an American car, and they gave me your phone number. I say it is for sale, isn't it?
Well, of course. Oh, that knee looks a fright.
Oh, yes, I've had worse. There you are. Now, I refuse to discuss the price until you've had at least 3 brandies.
Well, I warn you. I drive a hard bargain, sober or otherwise. You know, I think I must have seen you since we left Cambridge.
Ever been to Wimbledon?
That's it. Windus. Tony Windus. What's all this about, Fisher?
And what's all this about Lesgett? Like a cigar?
Now, I'll stick to this pipe if you don't mind.
Oh, that's one habit you've changed. At college you used to smoke rather expensive cigars. Wait a minute. I might have a picture of you on the wall here. Yes, here you are, taken at the reunion dinner. Isn't that you on the far right? Why, that's the biggest cigar in the business.
Huh. That was the first and last reunion I ever went to. What a murderous thug I look, eh?
Yes, you do rather. Of course, I always remember you because of the college ball. You were the treasurer, weren't you?
Honorary treasurer. I used to organize the beastly things.
Yeah. Some of the ticket money was stolen, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, that's right. Nearly £100. I left it in a cash box in my study. In the morning it had gone.
Oh, and it was the college porter, of course.
Oh, yes, poor old Alfred. He never could back a winner. They found the cash box in his back garden.
But not the money.
Now, that was 20 years ago.
Yeah, what are you doing nowadays?
I deal in property. I say, did you play at Wimbledon this year?
No, I've given up tennis. Or,
Oh.
or rather, tennis gave me up. One has to earn a living sometime. I'd had a pretty good run. I went around the world 3 times.
Well, what are you doing now?
I sell sports equipment. It's not very lucrative, but it gives me plenty of spare time.
Well, I must say you managed to run a comfortable place here.
My wife has some money of her own. Otherwise, I should hardly feel like blowing £1,000 on your car.
1,100. Yes, people with capital don't realize how lucky they are. I'm resigned to living on what I can earn.
Well, you can always marry for money.
Yes, I suppose some people make a business of that, eh?
I know I did.
You say you married for money. Why do you think she married you?
Well, I was a tennis star.
But you've given up tennis. She hasn't left you.
She nearly did.
Hmm?
After we were married, I played in the various championships, and Margot tagged along. I think she found it all a bit exhausting. When we got back to the States, she persuaded me to give up tennis and play husband instead. In the end, we compromised. I went alone to America for the grass courts season and returned after the Nationals. I soon realized that a lot had happened while I was away.
Oh?
For one thing, she wasn't in love with me anymore. There was an old school friend she used to visit from time to time, phone calls that would end abruptly if I happened to walk in.
Oh, dear.
And one day we had a row. I wanted to play in a tournament, and as usual, she didn't want me to go. I was in the bedroom when the phone rang. It all sounded pretty urgent. After that, she seemed rather keen that I should play in the tournament after all, so I packed my kit into the car and drove off. I parked the car 2 streets away and walked back in my tracks. 10 minutes later, she came out of the house and took a taxi. I took another. Her old school friend lived in a studio in Chelsea. I could see them through the window as he cooked spaghetti. They didn't say much. They just looked very natural together. It's funny how you can tell when people are in love. I went for a walk. I began to wonder what would happen if she left me. I'd have to find some way of earning a living to begin with. I suddenly realized how much I'd grown to depend on her, all these expensive tastes I'd acquired while I was at the top, and now big tennis had finished with me, and so apparently had my wife. I can't ever remember being so scared. I dropped into a pub and had a couple of drinks. I thought of all sorts of things. I thought of 3 different ways of killing him. Then I thought of killing her.
Oh.
That seemed a far more sensible idea. And just as I was working out how I could do it, I suddenly saw something which completely changed my mind. I didn't go to that tournament after all. When I got back, she was sitting exactly where you are now. I told her I'd decided to give up tennis and look after her instead.
Well, go on.
Well, as things turned out, I needn't have gotten so worked up after all. Apparently that spaghetti evening had been a sort of fond farewell. The boyfriend had been called back to New York.
Oh, an American, eh?
Yes. There were long letters from there. They usually arrived on Thursdays. She burned them all, except one. That one she used to transfer from handbag to handbag. It was always with her. That letter became an obsession with me. I had to find out what was in it. And finally, I did. It made for very interesting reading.
You mean you stole it?
Yes. I even wrote her an anonymous note offering to sell it back.
Why?
I was hoping that would make her come and tell me all about him. But it didn't.
Interesting. So you kept the letter?
Yes, it's just there, the envelope.
Why are you telling me all this?
You're the only person I can trust.
Me?
Anyway, my note must have put the fear of God into them because the letters stopped. And, well, you might say we lived happily ever after. Funny to think that just a year ago I was sitting in that Knightsbridge pub actually planning to murder her. And I might have done it if I hadn't seen something that changed my mind.
Well, what did you see?
I saw you.
What of it?
Well, the coincidence. You see, only a week before, I'd been to a reunion dinner, and the fellows had been talking about you. Had you been court-martialed during the war? A year in prison? That was news. Mind you, at college, we'd always said old Swan would end up in jail. That cash box, I suppose.
What about the cash box?
Oh, my dear fellow, everybody knew you took that money. Poor old Alfred.
Well, thanks for the drink. Interesting hearing about your matrimonial affairs. I take it you won't be wanting the car after all.
Don't you want me to tell you why I brought you here?
Well, yes, I think you'd better.
It was when I saw you in the pub that it happened. Suddenly, everything became quite clear.
As he speaks, Tony uses a cloth to wipe carefully over any surface Swan has touched. The ashtray, the photograph. He also picks up the letter and tucks it into his pocket.
Only a few months before, Margot and I had made our wills. Hers worked out to just over £90,000. Investments mostly, a little too easy to get at. And that was dangerous, as they'd be bound to suspect me. I'd need an alibi, a very good one. And then I saw you.
Seems your knee is feeling better.
I'd often wondered what happened to people when they came out of prison. People like you, I mean. Can they get jobs? Do their friends rally round? Suppose they'd never had any friends. I was so curious to know that I followed you. I followed you home that night, and I've been following you ever since.
Why?
I was hoping that sooner or later I might catch you at something and be able to,
Blackmail me?
influence you. After a couple of weeks, I got to know your routine, which made it a lot easier.
Rather dull work, what?
To begin with, yes, but you know how it is. You take up a hobby, and the more you get to know it, the more fascinating it becomes. You became quite fascinating. You went to the dog races every Monday and Thursday. I even took it up myself, just to be near you. You changed your name to Adams.
I got bored with Swan. Any crime in that?
None whatever. In fact, there was nothing really illegal about you. I got quite discouraged. Then one day you disappeared from your lodgings, so I phoned your landlady. I said, Mr. Adams owed me £5. Well, apparently that was nothing. Mr. Adams owed her 6 weeks' rent. And Mr. Adams had been such a nice gentleman. That's what seemed to upset her most.
Oh, yes, that's what always upsets them most.
I lost you, and then I found you again one day at the dog racing. I tailed you home to your new lodgings in Belsize Park. There, Mr. Adams became Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson left Belsize Park, owing 12 weeks' rent and somewhat richer for his brief encounter with a Miss Wallace. She certainly was in love with you, wasn't she? Poor Miss Wallace.
Well, this is all most interesting.
Yes. And now you're with a Mrs. Van Dorn. Her late husband left her 2 hotels in a large apartment house. What a base to operate from, Captain Lesgett. The only trouble is, she does rather enjoy being courted. And she is so very expensive. Perhaps that's why you've been trying to sell her car for over a month.
Mrs. Van Dorn asked me to sell her car for her.
I know. I called her up just before you arrived here. She only wanted $800.
Where's the nearest police station?
Opposite the church, 2 minutes walk.
Suppose I walk there now.
What would you tell them? All about Mr. Adams and Mr. Wilson?
I shall simply tell them you are trying to blackmail me into doing something, into murdering your wife.
I almost wished you would. When she heard that, we'd have the laugh of our lives.
Suppose I tell them how you followed her to that studio in Chelsea, how you watched them cooking spaghetti and all that rubbish.
They'd assume you followed her there yourself.
Me? Why should I?
Why should you steal her handbag? Why should you write her that blackmail note? Can you prove you didn't? It will be a straight case of your word against mine.
Well, that ought to puzzle them. What could you say?
Well, I should simply say that you came here tonight half drunk and tried to borrow money on the strength that we were at college together. When I refused, you said something about a letter belonging to my wife. As far as I could tell, you were offering to sell it to me. I gave you what money I had, and you gave me the letter. It has your fingerprints on it now, remember? Then you said if I went to the police, you'd tell some crazy story about my wanting you to murder my wife. Before we go any further, old boy, do consider the inconvenience. Sooner or later, a slew of landladies would come forward to testify to your character, and someone is almost certain to have seen you with Miss Wallace.
Quite smart, aren't you?
Not really. I've just had time to think things out. That's why I know you're going to agree.
And what makes you think that?
For the same reason that a donkey with a stick behind him and a carrot in front goes forward and not backward.
Tell me about the carrot.
£1,000 in cash.
For murder?
For a few minutes' work, and no risk, which ought to appeal to you. You've been skating on very thin ice.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You ought to know. It was in all the papers. Middle-aged woman found dead due to an overdose of something. Apparently she'd been taking the stuff for quite some time, and nobody knows where she got it. But we know, don't we? Poor Miss Wallace.
This, £1,000, where is it?
In a small attaché case in a check room,
Where?
somewhere in London. Of course, we don't meet again. As soon as you've delivered the goods, I shall mail you the check room ticket and a key to the case. You can take this £100 on account.
When would this take place?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow? Not a chance. I've got to think this over.
It's got to be tomorrow. I've arranged things that way.
Where?
Right here. At the desk. Tomorrow evening, the American boyfriend and I will go to a stag party just down the road. Margot will stay here. She'll go to bed early and listen to Saturday Night Theatre on the radio. She always does when I'm out. At exactly 23 minutes to 11, you will enter the house by the street door. You'll find the key for the door outside in the hallway. Right here, under the stair carpet.
The, fifth step, then?
That's the one. Enter and go straight to the garden window. Hide behind the curtains. At exactly 20 minutes to 11, I shall go to the telephone to call my boss. I shall dial the wrong number. This number. That's all I shall do. When the phone rings, you'll see the lights go on under the bedroom door. When she opens it, the light will stream across the room, so don't move until she answers the phone. After you've finished, pick up the phone and give me a soft whistle, then hang up. I shall then call my boss as if nothing has happened.
And then?
You'll find a suitcase here. It will contain some clothes for the cleaners. Open it, tip the clothes out onto the floor. Then fill it with the cigarette box and some of these tennis cups. But leave the suitcase here.
Oh, as if I left in a hurry.
That's the idea. Now, the French windows. If they're locked, unlock them and leave them open. But go out the same way you came in.
By the door?
Yes. And here's the most important thing. As you go out, return the key to the place where you found it.
Under the stair carpet?
Yes.
What exactly is supposed to have happened?
Well, they'll assume you entered by the windows. You thought the apartment was empty, so you took the suitcase and went to work. When she heard the noise and came in, you attacked her before she could scream. Then you panicked and bolted into the garden, leaving your loot behind.
Just a minute. I'm supposed to have entered by the windows. What if they'd been locked?
It wouldn't matter. She likes to walk around the garden before she goes to bed, and she often forgets to lock up again. That's what I shall tell the police.
But she may say that,
Yes, but
oh,
she isn't going to say anything, is she?
quite right. What time will you get back?
About midnight. I shall bring the boyfriend back for a nightcap, so we shall find her together, and we shall have been together since we left her. And there's my alibi.
Oh, you've forgotten something.
Have I?
When you return, how will you get into the apartment? The boyfriend will see you take your key from under the stair carpet, and it'll give away the whole show.
But it won't be my key under the carpet. It'll be hers. I'll make sure of it. She won't be going out, so she won't miss it. When I come back with the boyfriend, I'll use my own key to let us in. And while he's searching the garden or something, I'll take her key from under the carpet and return it to her handbag before the police arrive.
Well, how many keys are there to that door?
Just hers and mine. Hello?
Tony, it's me.
Oh, hello, darling. How's it going?
Wonderfully. It's a dreadful play, and we're enjoying every minute.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it.
Will you join us after?
Oh, I don't think so. I hardly seem to have started.
Oh, Tony.
Darling, just a minute. I think there's someone at the door. Psst. Careful. You can be seen from the bedroom window. Sorry, darling. False alarm. Say, why don't you take Max to Jerry's?
Jerry's? You wouldn't mind?
Oh, of course not. Just mention my name at the door. By the way, Maureen rang up after you left. She wants us to go to dinner on Wednesday. You've got something down in your diary, but I can't read your writing. Looks like Al Benthall? Who's he? Another one of your boyfriends?
Albert Hall, you idiot.
Oh, the Albert Hall, of course. I'm so glad we can't go to Maureen's. She's such a filthy cook.
Oh, there's the bell. I must fly.
Enjoy yourself. Well,
I'll just double count this 100.
By all means.
The next evening, a rainy night. Inside, a fire burns brightly below the tennis cups on the mantel. Margot and Max examine a collection of loose press clippings celebrating Tony's sporting career.
Yeah, and after that, he lost concentration and didn't win another game.
Where's the picture of the Maharaja?
It's somewhere among those loose ones.
Oh, thank you.
Darling, when are you going to finish pasting those in?
I shall find time one of these days. Oh, here we are, the Maharaja. Isn't he dreamy?
He had enough jewels to sink a battleship, but all he really wanted was to play at Wimbledon.
The poor darling. He was so short-sighted, he could hardly see the end of his racket, let alone the ball.
Hey, you ought to write a book about all this.
Why don't you two collaborate? Murder on center court. Da-da-da.
How do you even start to write such a story?
Oh, don't overthink it. Just imagine you're gonna steal something or murder somebody. I simply put myself in the criminal's shoes. What do I do next?
Do you really believe in the perfect murder, Max?
Oh, absolutely. On paper, anyway. Though I doubt if I could carry it out.
Why not?
Well, to plan it out on paper is simple enough, but I imagine my real-life murder would be rather like my bridge. I'd make some stupid mistake and never realize it until I saw everyone staring at me.
Oh, I think we'd better drink up, Max.
Oh, all right, sir.
Max, are you doing anything tomorrow?
No, I don't think so.
Why don't we all drive down to Windsor for lunch?
Good idea. Swing by late morning, Max.
Oh, you'll never be rid of me.
Oh, by the way, darling, did I lend you my latchkey? I can't find it anywhere.
Let's see. No, I've only got mine.
Oh, well, may I borrow it?
Well, that's a bit awkward.
Why?
I may want to go out.
Tonight?
Yes, I thought I might go to a movie or something.
In this rain? Aren't you going to listen to the radio Saturday Night Theatre?
No, it's a thriller. I don't like thrillers when I'm alone. In any case, I'll be back before you so I can let you in.
But we won't be back till after midnight. You may be asleep by then.
Hey, you could always leave your key under the proverbial mat.
Here's my key. I had it all the time.
Good. That settles that.
Yes. What movie are you going to?
The classic, I expect.
Will you get in Saturday night?
Now, don't make me stay in. You know how I hate doing nothing.
Nothing? But there's 100 things you can do. What about those clippings? It's an ideal opportunity.
Well, I like that. You two go gallivanting while I stay home and do those boring clippings.
Well, very well. We won't go.
What do you mean?
Well, it's quite obvious you don't want us to go out tonight, so we'll stay here with you. What shall we do? Play cards?
Tony, darling, please, don't let's be childish about this.
No, I'll call the Grendon and tell them we're not coming.
No, I'll do your old press clippings.
Oh, you really don't have to.
You really don't have to, big baby. All right, fetch me the scissors. They're in the mending basket.
Yes, right away.
You know, Tony, you are straight out of the funny pages. And the paste, please.
Yes, Max, I think I saw the paste in the kitchen. The third drawer, I believe.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure.
I hope I wasn't unreasonable, darling.
No, I'm looking for the scissors. Are you sure they're here, darling?
Oh, yes, I believe they were, are they near the stockings?
Yes, the scissors should be there.
Oh, right, here they are. Oh, I hope I wasn't so unreasonable,
No,
Jack.
I really don't mind. I'll paste these in tonight, and you put up that extra shelf in the kitchen.
Oh, first thing tomorrow.
Third drawer, you said? I can't seem to find...
Oh, I'm coming, Max!
After Margot goes into the kitchen, Tony grabs her handbag.
Oh, for God's sake. Where's that key? Ah. Zup.
Tony slides Margot's key under the hallway stair carpet, the 5th step.
Can't believe I
Third drawer? Where did you get that idea?
Wasn't it?
Don't let him out of your sight, Max. He may wander off into traffic.
I'll keep hold of the leash.
Oh, darling, it's just possible old man Burgess would phone tonight. If he does, please tell him I'm at the Grendon. It may be rather important.
All right. Well, look after each other.
We will.
Good night.
Good night, dear. Saying he's over the hill. I said, don't worry, Norm. You'll never be over the hill. Not in that car you drive.
This program has been brought to you by Whiteo.
Whiteo makes your teeth look brighto, yeah.
Now stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Our next program won't make your teeth bright, but it may make your hair white. It's a thriller so terrifying, so blood-curdling.
Oh, curdle your own blood, Buster.
A dark figure slips toward the French doors behind the desk. From the pocket, a long scarf slowly emerges. Then into the folds of the curtains, the figure vanishes.
I'm coming, boss. I'm coming. Hello? 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 Mr. Burgess? Hello?
Don't fight it.
Get off of me! Scissors!
Hello? Margot?
Get the police! Quickly!
Margot!
Who's that?
Darling, it's me.
Oh, thank God! Tony, come back at once!
What's the matter?
Come quickly, please!
Darling, pull yourself together. What is it?
A man attacked me. He tried to strangle me.
What? Has he gone?
No, he's dead. Oh, Tony. Tony, are you still there?
Margot?
Yes?
Now listen very carefully. Don't touch anything. I'll be with you in a minute.
Tony?
Don't touch anything and don't speak to anybody.
Yes, all right. Only please be quick.
all right. It's all right. It'll be all right. What happened?
He got something round my throat. A stocking, I think. Oh.
Let me see.
Ow! Oh. I killed him, didn't I?
Oh, he's dead, all right. Must have driven the scissors right through himself.
Oh, it's horrible.
What are you doing?
My aspirin.
Oh.
While Margot is getting water, Tony rifles through Swan's clothing, desperate to find Margot's key.
All right, Swan. Where is it? Where is it? Ah!
He just has time to return the key to get to her handbag.
Are you all right?
Oh.
I wonder what he was after. Those trophies, I expect.
When will they get here?
The police? Have you called them?
No. You told me not to speak to anyone.
Right. I'll call them now.
Tony,
Yes?
why did you phone me?
What's that? Oh,
Maidvale Police?
Oh, hello, police. There's been a ghastly accident. A man has been killed. 61A Charrington Gardens. It's the ground floor apartment.
Your name, sir?
Wendice. D-I-C-E.
You said it was an accident.
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? You think he might have been killed by someone?
Well, I'll explain everything when you get here.
I'm a dead weight.
Oh, darling, please go on to bed.
But the police, they want to see me.
You've had a terrible shock, darling. Go on to bed. I'll check on you in a minute.
All right.
Tonight I'll tell the police everything they need to know.
All right. All right.
Tony scans the room, gears turning. He returns behind the desk and squats down. When he rises, he's holding Swan's scarf, a would-be murder weapon. Tony examines the scarf for a few seconds, then pockets it. Then he strolls thoughtfully to the mending basket. Inside, he finds the pair of stockings. He moves again to the French doors, which he opens, and tosses one stocking out into the patio. Leaving the door ajar, he draws the curtains tightly closed. He thinks for a second and crosses to the fireplace. He tucks the matching stockings into a silver tennis cup on the mantel. Finally, Tony crosses back to Swan's body. From his own jacket pocket, he pulls out the fateful letter, Max's last letter to Margot, and transfers it into the pocket of the dead man's jacket. The next morning, Tony and Margot sit at the dining table. Tony reads a newspaper, while Margot, still in her robe, sips tea with a far-off look.
Hello.
Mrs. Windus, please.
This is Mr. Wendice.
Good morning, sir. I'm with the C&S News Service. Might I speak to Mrs. Windus?
No, I'm afraid not. Not for a day or two.
Oh, is she injured? I was hoping to get a photo.
No, sorry. Goodbye.
I suppose we shall get a lot of that.
Not for long.
Those gawkers are still out on the sidewalk. Do they expect another fight to the death this afternoon?
When the inquest's over, they'll forget all about it.
It feels like a dream. The police. Were they here all night? Cars coming and going, turning the furniture up and down. Someone kept flashing a light under the bedroom door.
Taking photographs, probably. Darling, before I forget, the sergeant wanted to know why you didn't phone the police immediately.
But how could I? You were on the phone.
I know, but...
But you distinctly told me not to speak
I
to...
know, darling, but I told him a slightly different story.
Why?
I said that you didn't phone the police because you naturally assumed that I would do it from the hotel.
Why did you say that?
Because Well, it was the perfectly logical explanation, and he accepted it. But if they get the idea that we delayed reporting it, even for a few minutes,
So you want me to say the same thing?
I think it would be best. Just in case it comes up again. That should be Max.
Good morning, madam.
Oh, good morning.
Mrs. Windus.
Yes,
I'm police officer. May I come in?
of course.
Oh, good morning, sir. I'm Chief Inspector Hubbard, Head of Criminal Investigation.
Good morning. I think we gave your sergeant all the necessary information.
Yes, I've seen his report. There are a few things I'd like to get firsthand. Mind if I take a look around, Mrs. Windus? Mrs. Windus?
Darling,
I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead.
my wife's had a considerable shock.
Oh, yes. This was a very nasty experience.
We assume he must have come in through the windows here.
Mm-hmm. You weren't here when this happened, were you, sir?
No, I was at a dinner party at the Grendon Hotel. By a curious coincidence, I was actually phoning my wife when she was attacked.
Oh, so I gather. Can you tell me exactly what time it was?
No, I'm afraid I can't.
Did you notice, Mrs. Windus?
No, I didn't. Have you any idea who the man was?
Oh, yes. At least we've discovered where he lived. There still seems to be some confusion as to his real name. He appeared to have several. Had you ever seen him before?
Why, no, of course not.
Well, here's his picture. You don't recognize him.
No, I never saw him.
Didn't you even catch a glimpse of his face?
No, you see, he attacked me from behind. It was dark.
But before I showed you those photographs, you said you'd never seen him before. Now, how could you know that if you never saw his face last night?
I simply meant that as far as I knew, I'd never seen him.
I see. How about you, sir? Ever seen him?
No, I don't. Well, at least...
Yes?
Well, it's very like someone I was at college with. The mustache makes quite a difference.
And what was his name?
Oh, goodness. It's been nearly 20 years.
Was it Lesgate?
Lesgate, no.
Wilson?
No.
Swan?
Swan. Wait a minute. Swan. Yes, that's it. Look, I even have his picture here. We were at college together. This was taken at a reunion dinner. It's unbelievable.
Did you know him well, sir?
No, he was senior to me.
Have you met him since then?
No, at least... Well, come to think of it, I believe I did see him, and recently, but not to speak to.
When was that?
Maybe 6 months ago? At a railway station. Victoria, I think. I remember noticing how little he'd changed.
Had he a mustache then?
No.
Mrs. Windus, would you show me exactly what happened last night?
If I must. I was in bed when the phone rang. I got up and came in here.
Just show me exactly where you were standing.
Here. At the desk. I picked up the phone.
Are you sure you had your back to the window like that?
Yes.
But why?
Why not?
Why go round the desk? I should have picked it up from this side.
But I always answer the phone from here. If I want to write something down, I can hold the phone in my left hand.
I see. All right, go on.
I picked up the phone. He must have come from behind the curtains and attacked me. He got something around my neck.
Something? What do you mean by something?
I think it was a scarf
Or a stocking, you said?
Yes, or a stocking perhaps.
What happened then?
He pushed me across the desk. I might have blacked out for a moment. Then I remember the scissors. I had been using them here earlier.
Where were those scissors usually kept?
In that mending basket. I'd forgotten to put them away.
And what makes you think he came from behind those curtains?
Where else could he have been?
The curtains were drawn, I suppose?
Yes, they were.
Did you draw them yourself?
I drew them, Inspector, before I went out.
Did you lock the window at the same time?
Yes.
Are you quite sure of that, sir?
Perfectly sure.
Then how do you suppose he got into this room?
Well, naturally, we assumed that he broke in.
There's no sign of a break-in. The lock's quite undamaged. Mrs. Windus, why didn't you ring the police immediately this happened?
I was trying to get through to the police when I discovered that my husband was on the line. I naturally thought he would call the police from the hotel before he came here.
Didn't it occur to you to call for a doctor?
A doctor? He was dead.
How did you know that?
It was obvious.
Did you feel his pulse?
Of course not. Anyone would have known he was dead. Just one look at those staring eyes.
So you did see his face?
I saw his eyes.
Inspector, my wife had obviously never seen this man before. And if he didn't get in by those windows, how did he get in?
We're quite certain he came in by the front door.
But it was locked.
How many keys are there to this door?
Only two. Mine was in my handbag, and you had yours with you.
That's right. What makes you think he came in that way?
His shoes.
His shoes?
The ground was soaking wet last night. If he hadn't come in by the garden, he'd have left marks all over the carpet. We're convinced he wiped his shoes on the front door mat.
Oh, but surely...
It's a fairly new mat, and some of its fibers came off on his shoes. There's no question about it.
Wait a minute. Margot, you remember when your bag was stolen?
Yes.
Wasn't your key inside?
Yes, but it was still there when I got it back.
Just a moment. I'd like to hear about this. What sort of bag?
A handbag, Inspector. My wife lost it at Victoria
I
Station.
got it back from the lost and found about 2 weeks later.
Was anything missing?
All the money was gone.
Anything else?
No.
No papers or letters?
No.
Are you quite sure about that?
Yes.
And your latchkey was in your handbag when you lost it?
Yes, but it was still there when it was returned.
You said that the bag went missing at Victoria Station. Wasn't that where you said you saw this man, sir?
That's right. Wait a minute, I think I've got it. He could have stolen the bag, copied the key, and then returned the key to your bag.
Yes, he could have done. And he could have used it to open the door. But of course, he didn't.
Why not?
Because if he had a key, it would have been on his person when he died. But the dead man had no key.
I see. Well, we seem to be back where we started.
Not quite. The next thing is to get all this down on paper. I'd like you both to make an official statement before the inquest. My office is only a few moments from here. Perhaps you could come now.
Hello, Tony. Margot. Excuse me.
Max, this is Inspector Hubbard. This is Mr. Halliday, Inspector. He was with me last night.
How do you do?
Mr. Halliday, you may be able to help us. Did you happen to notice the time when Mr. Windus went to the phone?
Yes, it was about 20 to 11.
How did you come to notice that?
Well, when Mr. Wendis got up, I thought for a moment we were leaving the party, so I looked at my watch.
Oh, thank you, sir. You see, it was when Mrs. Windus came in here to answer his call that she was attacked.
Tony, you were phoning Margot? But I thought... I asked if we were leaving, and you said you were just going to call your boss.
Yes, Tony. Why did you phone me last night?
Just a moment. Before I lose the thread of this, at about 20 to 11, you left your party to phone your boss?
Yes, I used the payphone in the lobby, but I couldn't remember his number in the country, so I rang home to ask Margot to look it up in the address book.
You hauled me out of bed for that?
I had to, darling. You see, Inspector, my boss was flying to Brussels this morning, and I wanted to remind him of something that was rather important.
So, you never called him after all?
No. Naturally, when I heard what had happened here, I forgot all about it.
I see. Mr. Halliday, Mr. and Mrs. Wendus are coming to my office now to make their statements. Would you give me your address, sir? I may want to get in touch with you.
Certainly.
I'll just get my code.
I'm staying at the Carfax.
Just write it down there, will you? Telephone number as well.
As Max writes, Hubbard scrutinizes both Max and his handwriting closely.
Ever been to London before, sir?
Yes, about a year ago. There you are, sir.
Mr. Windus, there's quite a crowd in the front of the house. I was going to suggest we leave by the garden. Is there a gate at the far end?
Oh, yes, but it might be locked.
Would you mind taking a look, sir?
Not at all.
How much does he know about you and Mrs. Windus?
I beg your pardon?
You wrote a letter to Mrs. Windus from New York. It was found in the dead man's pocket. Any idea how it got there?
No.
Where's Tony?
Mrs. Windus, when you lost your handbag, did you lose a letter as well?
Margot. It was found in the man's pocket.
I asked you that before, didn't I?
Yes, but you see, my husband didn't know about it.
This man was blackmailing you, wasn't he?
It's no good, Margot. Tony will have to know about it. Inspector, look at this. After Mrs. Wendis lost my letter, she received this note.
Oh, Max.
Let's see here. Who's that? 50 pounds. John King, Brixton. No. Mrs. Windus, I'll ask you again. How many times had you seen this man?
I'd never seen him.
Mr. Halliday, I'd like you to come along with us.
Yes, of course.
Mrs. Windus, when you come to make your statement, there will be other police officers present. I shall warn you the first that anything you say will be taken down and may be used in evidence.
Tony reappears at the French windows. He listens intently as the inspector continues.
Now, never mind what you've told me so far. We'll forget all about that. From now on, tell us exactly what you know about this man and exactly what happened last night. If you try and conceal anything at all, it may put you in a very serious position.
I wish you'd explain what you mean by all this.
You admit that you killed this man. You say you did it in self-defense. But we've only your word for that.
But I heard it all, Inspector, over the telephone.
What exactly did you hear, Mr. Windus?
Well, a series of faint cries.
Anything to indicate a struggle was going on?
What I heard, Inspector, was perfectly consistent with what my wife told me.
So, all you really know of the matter is that what your wife told you. Mrs. Windus, you suggest that this man came to burgle your flat, but there's no evidence of that. There's no evidence, however, that he was blackmailing you.
Blackmail?
It's true, Tony.
You suggest that he came in by the window, and we know he came in by that door.
But he can't have got in that way. The door was locked.
You could have let him in.
You're not suggesting that she let him in herself?
At present, that appears to be the only way he could have entered.
But don't you even believe I was attacked? How do you think I got these bruises?
You could have caused those bruises yourself.
No.
A knotted stocking was found outside, just outside these windows.
That must have been what he used.
We found the twin stocking here, hidden in this cup. Can you explain why your attacker should do that?
What?
Those stockings were yours, weren't they?
What? No!
We know they were. One of the heels had been donned with silk we found in your mending basket.
It's ridiculous. I've heard of the police deliberately planting evidence. I just didn't realize they did it in this country.
His men were in here for hours last night.
Yes, they probably wiped his shoes on the doormat as well.
Hello.
Hello, Roger. Tony Wendis here. Now listen, Roger. We had a burglary last night and Margot was attacked.
Margot, was she hurt?
No, she's all right, but the man was killed. The police are here now, and don't laugh, but they're suggesting that Margot killed him intentionally.
I wouldn't
Well,
say that if
that's
I
a
were you,
good
sir.
one.
Yes, it is funny, isn't it? Now, can you come round at once to the Maida Vale police station?
Be there straight away.
Thanks, old boy. Goodbye. It's all right, darling. Roger's going to meet us at the police station.
Mr. Windus, I should advise you.
Months later, Tony enters alone, carrying a small blue attaché case, and hangs his coat on the rack. Bundles of hard cash in small notes near the door in the bedroom as he lays the attaché case on the bed. opens it, and studies its contents. And there is the hard cash. He closes the case and tucks it into the shelf beneath the bedside table. Returning to the living room, he switches on the radio, and he moves to the caddy to pour himself a drink. But as he hears the news, he freezes, listening.
By 12.5%. The Home Secretary has written to the lawyers of Mrs. Margot Wendis to say that sufficient grounds to justify recommending a reprieve have not been found. At the Old Bailey last November, Mrs. Wendis was found guilty of the murder of Charles Swan and was sentenced to death. Her lawful execution will go forward tomorrow morning. The time is now 11 minutes past 1. The official forecast calls for bright periods and showers in all districts today. Frost is expected again tonight, especially in...
Hello, Max.
Tony, may I come in?
Of course. You're quite a stranger.
Yes, I'm sorry. I wasn't sure how you felt after
That's all right.
I heard the news.
Yes, I'm afraid it's settled. I went to the prison this morning, but she wouldn't see me. She never did like goodbyes.
Tony, I take it you would do anything to save her life.
We've done everything.
No, not quite.
What do you...
Tony, I've been working this out for weeks. It may be her only chance.
Let's have it.
You must tell the police that you hired Swan to murder her.
Max...
Listen, Margot was convicted because no one would believe her story. But what was the case against her? Just 3 things, really. My letter, her stalking, and the idea that because no key was found on Swan, she must have let him in herself.
Max...
Tony, hear me out. This is where you come in. Since Swan is dead, you can tell any story you like about him. You can say that you two worked out the whole thing together.
You expect the police to believe that from the desperate husband?
Hey, I've been writing this stuff for years.
Max, the blackmail letter was found in his pocket.
You put it there.
I should pretend that I stole her handbag?
Exactly.
But why?
Because you wanted to find out who was writing her. You had the letter for months. Then you planted it on Swan after he'd been killed.
Max, I know you're trying to help, but it's ridiculous. The police would take it for exactly what it is. A husband scratching and clawing to save his wife.
Isn't it worth a try? They can't hang you for planning a murder that never came off. The most you'd get would be a few years in prison.
Oh, that's fine coming from you, Max. Her life wouldn't have been in danger in the first place if not for you. How could I have persuaded Swan to do such a thing?
You offered him money.
What money? I haven't got any.
Well, that's why you wanted her dead. Tony, I know this is tough because we both love her. But don't you see, that's the motive. That's why this could work. She had the money. With her out of the way, you would inherit... who is that?
I have no idea.
Max slinks away into the bedroom and slides the door mostly closed behind him.
Oh, hello, Inspector. Is it about my wife?
No, sir. I'm afraid not.
What is it then?
I'm making inquiries in connection with a robbery that took place a few weeks ago.
A robbery? Can't it wait?
Well, I'm very conscious of your position, sir. If I may, I would like to say how deeply sorry I am.
Yes, Inspector. All right. How can I help you?
Well, you see, the cashier of a factory in Ludbury Street was attacked in his office, and 2 men made off with several £100s, mostly in pound notes.
What's all this got to do with me?
Well, you see, in cases like this, all police divisions are asked to keep a lookout for anyone spending large sums of money.
I see.
I was wondering if you had sold anything recently for cash.
Why?
Well, my sergeant happened to be making inquiries at Wells Garage the other day, and it appears that you settled an account there recently for, let me see here. Yes, just over £60.
Yes, I happen to have quite a lot on me at the time, so I paid cash.
I see. Had you just drawn this money from your bank?
Have you been to my bank, Inspector?
Oh, yes, as a matter of fact, I have. But they wouldn't help me. Bank statements are always jealously guarded. So, where'd you get it, sir?
Is that any of your business?
If it was stolen money, yes, sir. It is my business.
Oh, do you really think I've been receiving stolen money?
Well, until you tell me where you got it, I can't know what to think, can I? You see, if you got that money from someone you didn't know, well, that might be the very person we're looking for.
As he is speaking, Inspector Hubbard surreptitiously removes a latchkey from his trouser pocket.
Hello? What's this here?
What is it?
Somebody's latchkey. It was lying on the floor just here. Is it yours, sir?
Tony moves to the coat rack near the door. He feels the pockets of his raincoat.
No, mine is here in my raincoat.
Inspector Hubbard tries the key in the lock.
No? No, it's not yours. Perhaps it's my own.
The inspector checks the pocket of his own raincoat.
Well, how about that? It is mine. There's a small hole in my pocket here. That's the trouble with these latchkeys, you know. They're all alike.
Inspector Hubbard returns the key to a different pocket of his raincoat. He then hangs up the coat on the coat rack, directly beside Tony's. The two raincoats, much like two latchkeys, look nearly identical.
I'm sorry, sir. You were saying...
I don't think I was.
Oh, yes. About the money. I'd be grateful if you'd tell me where you got it. After all, £100 is quite a lot to carry around.
You said 60 a moment ago.
Did I? Oh, yes. Oh, I see. My sergeant decided to dig a little deeper before he put it in his report. He said you'd also paid, let's see here, a bill at your tailor's and another for wine and
I'm sorry you went to all that trouble. Had he come straight to me, I could have explained it at once. I simply won rather a large sum at dog racing.
Over £100?
It has been done before, you know.
Oh, I see. Yes. Why didn't you tell me this straight away, sir?
Because I was rather ashamed to be caught at the races when my wife is under sentence of death.
Oh, I know how it is, sir. Helps to take your mind off of things. Well, that answers everything, doesn't it? I'm sorry to have bothered you at this time.
Not at all, Inspector.
Oh, there's just one other thing, sir. Have you a small blue attaché case?
Don't say you found it already.
Why? Have you lost it?
Yes. I was going to report it this afternoon. I think I left it in a taxi.
Well, we must try and get it back, mustn't we?
Oh, well, I'm sure it will turn up.
Anything valuable in the case?
No. Some books.
Any money?
£2 or £3 maybe in an envelope.
Not 200 or 300?
No. How did you find out about the attaché case?
The wine shop mentioned that you had it when you paid your bill. So my sergeant checked back on your garage and your tailor. They both remembered you having it when you paid them.
Well, I used it instead of a briefcase.
Well, these taximen are pretty good at turning things in when they find them, and...
Is this the case you were asking after, Inspector?
Mr. Halliday,
Max, are you quite all right?
let's have a look.
I already have.
Must be over £500 here. Where did you get this, sir?
I can tell you why he got it. This money was to have been paid to Swan after he murdered Mrs. Wendis. But there was an accident, as you know, so it wasn't necessary to pay Swan after all. Tony could have produced this cash without questions being asked, so he's been living on it ever since.
Well, Mr. Windus?
Before you came, Inspector, Mr. Halliday was trying to persuade me to go to the police and tell the most fantastic story you ever heard. Apparently, I bribed Swan to murder my wife so that, correct me if I go wrong, Max, so that I could inherit all her money. And that wasn't all. You remember Mr. Halliday's letter? Well, apparently it wasn't Swan who stole it, I did. And I wrote the blackmail note. And I kept Mr. Halliday's letter and planted it on the body.
And that stocking which was found?
Oh, yes, the stocking. Perhaps I'd better tell this part too. It will sound more like a confession. I substituted, is that the right word? I substituted my wife's stockings for the, you follow me, don't you, Inspector? What else, Max?
Max jumps into action.
He told Swan he would hide his key somewhere out there, possibly on the ledge above the door here. Swan let himself in and hid behind the curtains, and then Tony phoned from the hotel, which brought Margot out from...
Just a minute. If Swan had used Mr. Windus's key, it would still have been on him when he died. Besides, how did Mr. Windus get in here when he returned from home?
Come on, Max. Your move.
Well, she could have let him in herself and then...
All right, Mr. Halliday. This is all very interesting, but it isn't getting me any nearer what I came to find out.
But this is a matter of life and death. What else matters?
What matters to me is where Mr. Windus got this money. That's all I want to know.
I say, Max.
Here, his checkbook.
Now, you Americans, honestly.
Look, Inspector, the last check he wrote was on the 27th of September. That was the day before the attack. I tell you, he's been living off this cash ever since.
I could have been planning all this for years.
Well, where did you get it?
You really want to know? I warn you, Max, you won't like it.
Come on.
Very well, you asked for it. When Margot called me back from the party that night, I found her kneeling beside Swan and going through his pockets. She kept saying he had something of hers, but she couldn't find it. She was almost hysterical. That's why I wouldn't let the police question her. In the state she was in, she would have told every lie under the sun. The next morning, she showed me that money. Just like it is now, all in small notes. She said, if anything happens to me, don't let them find this. You see, she was just about to give him the money when she killed him instead.
Oh, you don't really expect anyone to believe that, do you?
I've really no idea. What about it, Inspector?
Oh, it certainly seems to fit in with the verdict at the trial.
You mean you're not going to even check up on this? She's being hanged tomorrow.
All this has been out of my hands for months. There's been a trial and an appeal,
And if you wouldn't do you much good, would it, Inspector? You'd have to admit that you arrested the wrong person.
Max, I think you ought to go.
Yeah, you bet I'll go. But you made one mistake. What'll happen when Margot hears about all this?
Well, she'll deny it, of course.
Yeah, and perhaps she'll change her will. You'll have done it all for nothing.
Suppose I had told that story of his. Would anyone have believed me?
Oh, not a chance. Before nearly every execution, someone comes forward like this. This must have been very distressing for you, coming as it did.
Do you think they'll let him see her? I don't want her upset just now.
Oh, we'll have a word with your lawyer. He might be able to prevent it. By the way, I was asked to tell you there are a few things belonging to Mrs. Windus at the police station.
What sort of things?
Oh, just some books and a handbag, I believe. They'd like you to come and collect them.
You mean after tomorrow?
Or today, if you like. Just ask the desk sergeant. He knows all about it.
Inspector Hubbard lifts his raincoat off the rack near the door.
Oh, and I suggest you get that money back into the bank before someone pinches it.
Oh, yes, thank you. I will do that. Right now, in fact.
As Tony turns to look at the attaché case on the sofa, Hubbard quickly takes Tony's raincoat off the hook and replaces it with his own. He drapes Tony's raincoat over his arm as he steps into the hall.
Well, goodbye, Mr. Windus. I don't suppose we'll meet again.
Oh, goodbye, Inspector, and thank you. My God.
Tony stands for a long moment, staring into space. Then he takes up the attaché case and moves for the door. The last thing he does on the way out of the door is to grab the lone raincoat off the hook, Hubbard's raincoat.
Maidvale Police.
O'Brien, it's Hubbard. I've got back in again. Start the ball rolling.
Yes, sir.
What?
A hand reaches in through the broken pane of the French doors. The lock turns and the door pops open.
What in God's name are you up to?
Inspector, where's his bank statement?
Never mind about that.
But you don't see,
Shut up. If you want to save Mrs. Wenders, keep quiet and let me handle this.
You? But how do you think that you...
What? Quiet. Wait. Oh, you nearly ditched us then. I should have locked you up.
What is all this?
They talk about flat-footed policemen. May the saints protect us from the gifted amateur. You'd better prepare yourself for a surprise, Mr. Halliday.
At the French doors, the curtains part. Margot appears. She is pale and gaunt. Her eyes have aged 10 years. She is dressed in the same clothes. She also carries the very same handbag.
Margot?
Hello, Max. Where's Tony?
He's gone out. Oh, Margot.
Mrs. Wenders, was it you who buzzed the door just now?
Yes. Why didn't you let me in?
You've got a key. Why didn't you use it?
I tried. It didn't fit the lock.
And you know why, don't you?
No, I don't. Has the lockman changed?
Your husband has explained about the money, you know. You can tell us all about it now.
What is it? Why am I don't understand.
No. No, I don't believe you do. May I have your handbag, please? Thank you.
What's going on here?
Thompson!
Sir?
Take this handbag back to the police station quickly.
Yes, sir.
Wait a minute, you clot. You can't be walking down the street like that. You'll be arrested. Here, carry it in this.
All right.
Margot, what is this? Why are you here?
I don't know. About an hour ago, the warden came in to see me. He just said I was to be taken home. 2 detectives drove me here. They said I could go in, but I couldn't get that door open. Where's Tony? He was supposed to visit me this morning.
Inspector, do you think you could tell us what you're up to?
Mrs. Wenders, what you're going to hear may come as a shock.
I'll bet I've had worse.
Tony arranged for Swan to come that night and kill you.
Did you suspect it yourself?
No, never. And yet... What's the matter with me, Max? I can't seem to feel anything. I expect there's a nervous breakdown headed my way in the post.
When did you find out, Inspector?
Well, the first clue came quite by accident. We discovered that your husband had been spending large numbers of pound notes all over the place, and it appeared to have started about the time you were arrested. I had to find out where he got this money and how. Then I remembered that after you were arrested, we searched his flat, and I saw a copy of his bank statement in that desk. So yesterday afternoon, I went to the prison and asked to see your handbag. While I was doing this, I managed to lift your latchkey. Highly irregular, of course, but my blood was up. Then this morning, when your husband was out, I came here to look at his statement. But I never saw it because I never got through that door. You see, the key I had taken from your handbag didn't fit the lock. Kill the lights.
I've got it.
Don't make a sound. Oh, that was close. Windus, find out about his raincoat. He just came in and didn't have a key. I think he's heading back to the station now.
Police, O'Brien.
This is Windus. Find out about this raincoat. Has Thompson arrived with the handbag?
Yes, sir.
Good. Now listen. When you give Windus the handbag, make him check the contents and sign for them. And make sure he sees the key.
Yes, sir.
If he wants his own raincoat and key, tell him I've gone to Glasgow. Any questions?
No, sir.
Right. Call me when he leaves the station. Well, Mr. Halliday, have you got it?
I don't think so. Where's Mrs. Wendus's key?
Out here under the carpet.
Oh, the stairs.
Yeah, it took me a half an hour to find it.
But what, if it was there, why didn't Wendus use it just now?
He didn't use it because he doesn't realize it's there. He still thinks it's in his wife's handbag. You see, you were very nearly right. Mrs. Wendus, he told Swan that he wouldn't leave your key under the stair carpet. He told him to return it to the same place when he left. But as Swan was killed, he naturally assumed the key would still be in one of Swan's pockets. That was his little mistake, because Swan unlocked the door and then returned the key before he came in.
Oh, and it's been out there ever since. So the key Wendus took out of Swan's pocket and returned to Margot's handbag
Was Swan's own latchkey. It always puzzled me that no key was found on Swan's body. After all, most men carry a latchkey about with them. Then I had a brainwave. I took the key that was in your handbag to Mrs. Van Dorn's and unlocked the door of her apartment. Then I borrowed her telephone and called Scotland Yard.
Why did you bring me back here?
Because you were the only other person who could possibly have left that key outside. I had to find out if you knew it was there.
Suppose I had known.
Ah, but you didn't.
Max, it seems the post has arrived.
Margot.
O'Brien?
Wendus just left the police station.
Right. Williams,
Yes, sir.
he just left the station. Give me a thump if you see him coming.
Right, sir.
What happens now?
As I've pinched your husband, his key, he'll have to try the one in the handbag. When that doesn't fit, he'll realize his mistake, put two and two together, and look under the stair carpet.
But if he doesn't do that, this is all pure guesswork. We can't prove a thing.
Well, that's true. But once he opens that door, we shall know everything.
And Margot?
We'll have nothing else to fear. I'll get the lights.
Are you all right, Margot?
I have stories, Max.
I'll bet.
Quiet, you two.
It's no good.
Shh.
Inspector Hubbard crosses to the bedroom and peers carefully out the street window.
What's he doing?
He's wondering why that key doesn't fit. He's looking at the handbag now. He's trying to remember. Oh, now he's going off again. I'm afraid we've had it. Hold it. Hold it. He's turning around. He's staring at the key. Of course. That's Swan's key. Now he's got it. He's coming back fast.
It's true then.
I'll be damned.
Hello, Tony.
Mr. Windus.
Good afternoon, officers.
Mr. Wendis, need a lift?
Most likely I will. Thanks, I'll just be a minute. Well, as you said, Max, it might work out on paper, but, fancy a drink? How about you, Margot?
All right.
No thanks.
I'll have Max's drink too.
Right. Oh, congratulations, Inspector. No drink for you, I suppose. You're still on duty.
Oh, you may depend upon it.
As Margot Wendis, Jessica Floten. As Max Halliday, Sean Patrick Thomas. As CJ Swan and Inspector Hubbard, Joe Montanari. Doing all our live sounds and narrating was Kevin McGrath. In the booth, Chris Taylor and Joe McLaughlin doing a wonderful job with lights and sound. My name is Jonah Goger. I play Tony Wendis. The artistic director at Long Beach Shakespeare Company is Holly Levesque. And this has been a production of KBRD Studios and Long Beach Shakespeare Company. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.